Sui is a Japanese word for water. And that's why you can see also the drip, like the symbol of Sui. And the whole idea is, transactions are flowing, they're moving very fast, they can fit anywhere. I ended up being a white hat hacker for Ethereum, Solidity. I broke many smart contracts back then, especially anything that had to do with cryptography in particular. Most of the attacks that you've seen in the past are probably under my umbrella, or it was me in particular. I want to help people to understand what they are doing with their assets. And I'm very happy actually being here because we're going to discuss exactly this. There was a reason that Sui was built with cryptographic agility from the very beginning.
I appreciate that together we're offering that full spectrum, and I think it's really our goal collectively to make sure that people know, hey, you are above that threshold.
Many people that I meet in bars, they do have a ledger in their pocket. I see them like, okay, let me send you some Sui or let me show you what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's very common, right, lately.
Sui is flying. You guys are developing super quickly. Hi there, my name's Ian Rogers. Welcome to Ledger Podcast. You may already know that Layer 1 blockchain Sui has been fully integrated into Ledger Live. That means everything you want to do with your Sui, you can do from inside of Ledger Live and Ledger Enterprise. Send and receive, buy, swap, ultimately stake, clear sign, everything. Today we're joined by Kostas Chalkias, co-founder and chief cryptographer of Mysten Labs, the company that makes Sui. Let's get into it. Kostas, welcome to the Ledger Podcast. I'm here in Paris at Ledger's headquarters. Where do we find you today?
I'm in Dubai. I'm in Asia, as you can see. GCC here. I'm very happy. I'm taking my flight in a few moments for Switzerland, but it's getting dark outside.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited to have you with us, both for this interview and to have Sui with us on the Ledger platform. So first of all, first things first, what's the proper way to say Sui? Sui?
It's Sui. It's like sweet, but without the T. So Sui is a Japanese word for water. And that's why you can see also the drip, like the symbol of Sui. And the whole idea is, transactions are flowing, they're moving very fast, they can fit anywhere. Parallelization, you have the water, and then there are some small holes, it can go anywhere. And that's the whole idea behind what we've built here.
Perfect. That is a perfect way to start. And we're going to jump into how you achieve the throughput and the scalability. But start with what's your background, and then how and why Sui.
Of course. By the way, I started as a AI engineer and researcher. I was doing machine learning from my 16, 18 years old, and then I was hacked. I'm talking now with the Ledger platform here, but literally my system was hacked. It was a prediction model for the stock market. And since then, my professor came to me. I used to work with Paris and Thessaloniki, between Greece and France back then. And he told me, look, you have to learn some security because otherwise you will be hacked again and again. And back then we had the financial loss because of this hack. And then we decided to learn some cryptography. So I'm a white hat hacker since my 23 years old. And I started by hacking my university originally. And then I ended up being a white hat hacker for Ethereum, Solidity. I broke many smart contracts back then, especially anything that had to do with cryptography in particular, like randomness functions, signature schemes, proofs of solvency for exchanges, like Binance, Bybit, all of the big exchanges there. Most of the attacks that you've seen in the past are probably under my umbrella, or it was me in particular. And then I used to work for a company called R3 Corda. Back then it was one of the most popular fintech companies by some ex-BTC Bitcoin engineers. And since then, Mark Zuckerberg came to me one day, he knocked the door, hey, we're building Libra. We want you to come to Palo Alto. I was in London back then. Then I moved to Palo Alto. Facebook changed my mindset a lot because you work with billions of users, and then you realize, okay, I was on Ethereum, of course, and then I realized that It's only a few thousands of people working on software like scripting languages for smart contracts. Then you're having here a platform that can deal with billions of users across the world. And this is why I personally, even on my cryptography background, I ended up from a white hat hacker into cryptography, but for the UX part. So I want to help people to understand what they are doing with their assets. And I'm very happy actually being here because we're going to discuss exactly this, right? How can we hide the fact that, okay, there is some very advanced math in the background, and then you're using a device or you're using your passwords, and then you manage to hold your assets like in a self-custodian way. And you will find me anywhere from zero knowledge proofs, hacking digital signatures. I almost hacked one of your competitors in the past. And I'm also doing like cool stuff with new ideas on how we can hide completely like the cryptography for every blockchain user and actually attracting even the Instagram users into the blockchain.
Wow. I mean, first of all, I think I'm having a hard time not jumping all the way into that user experience part of the conversation because it's one of the key things I wanted to talk to you about, because I know that you guys have a wallet that makes onboarding extremely easy for users, and something that we're always grappling with as people in this space is how do we make things extremely easy to use while preserving security and self-custody. And I think you and I are going to be able to have a really interesting conversation on that. But I'm gonna that's a spoiler. We'll save that for a little bit, because what I want to be sure is that for any of Ledger's viewers that aren't already familiar with Sui, that they have a sense of this origin story. So you've touched on it a little bit, because a lot of the team or some of the other founders came from Meta, some from Google. How did this come together? There are a few projects. I mean, there are a few projects actually that came out of Libra, right?
4 or 5.
We know David well, and we're friendly with David, as well as Sui, as well as some other projects which all had their genesis there. We know that Meta had their moment and their chance. I always like to roast them when I can, because they had a chance with Instagram specifically to actually have a job where, instead of waking up every day and stealing people's attention and selling it to someone, which, by the way, stealing is a crime. I wouldn't be able to get out of bed every day if that were my job. They had a chance of making their job a value exchange between a creator and a collector, and they literally threw that away, which is completely, I have a real problem with it personally, to be honest. But many of you who worked on that very interesting Libra project, have gone on to do maybe bigger and better, or certainly interesting things. What was that? How did that happen for this particular team? How did you come together? Because also not all of you are from Meta.
Yes, all of the 5 of the co-founders are like former Meta employees. All of them actually super successful.
There was Google in there as well. I apologize.
Yeah. It's if you see, our CEO used to run a huge team at Apple just before he joins Facebook. I was, as I told you, in one of the biggest fintech consortium back then in the UK. Then what I believe happened with Mark Zuckerberg and David Marcus in particular, in that period, like 17, 18, and 19, I think they had some of the best talents in the world. Obviously, it's Facebook, right? The company is successful itself, like Meta. They had the issue previously, even with the Cambridge Analytica, and the privacy issues. And in my opinion, even when I joined as a cryptographer, I realized, look, they're doing a good job here. They're having all of this like audience across the world, but at the same time, security and cryptography, the Libra project itself, like Novi, as it was called afterwards, has probably a better engineering team on cryptography and security than the whole organization on the other side. I will not lie that even personally, I was involved in some of the WhatsApp operations for payments just before I leave Facebook. And from the very beginning, if you are having to do with Instagram users, Messenger users, Facebook users, Oculus users, all of these like entities, we were exposed very quickly into thinking completely different mindset, from having just degens, being the users of the blockchain, into my parents, my wife, my kids being able to use accounts. I think we were affected a lot by working together into how we can serve the unbanked people across the world, how we can go to Latin America. Imagine that Novi even launched in Latin America, like it was one of our experiments back then. So we learned together how we can make some changes, infrastructural changes, foundational changes into the blockchain to make it applicable for the average person in social networks. And we were all like coming from these big organizations, and it was very easy for us to collaborate together, right? Even before the time we all leave, and as you know, there are at least 4 or 5 startups, like pretty much like spin-offs, that left Libra and Novi, and then they created successful companies. David Marcus is one with Lightspark. We do have like the Aptos team. We do have Linera. There are a few other companies around custody. And then there was Sui. And if you ask me, the main difference between like the source, like how the connection was between the founders and the major people we hired was, if you take every individual that joined at the very beginning of Sui, of Mysten Labs, all of them were either promoted every year or they were some of the biggest brains in the organization. So I personally had the option as Kostas. Imagine I was the lead cryptographer for Facebook. To go to any of these teams. Like technically, some of them even invited me to be a founding member. There was no way I could go anywhere else if you don't get some of the biggest researchers in the organization. And then what Evan did, which is the CEO of Mysten Labs at the moment, he literally cherry-picked the people that he believed can change the the future of the blockchains. He was involved from even before he starts Libra with the space. I was also, as I told you, part of the crypto community. The other co-founder, George Danezis, is pretty much one of the people who created the fast consensus algorithms, and that's why we can build so fast crypto platforms. And then Sam created the Move language, the CTO of the company. So imagine having Adeniji was in the mining sector before he joins Facebook. Imagine everybody has some participation in the crypto space. They were super successful, and it was very easy to find this chemistry all together. Let's build it by ourselves. We don't need someone else. And let's also hire some of the biggest, brightest minds of Silicon Valley. And this is how Sui and Mysten Labs started, actually. Then it was very easy to go to A16Z and all of the other big VCs and tell them, look, you will never find the concentration of innovative brains even in Silicon Valley, even if you now go and cherry pick people from different funk companies. And I believe we were at the correct place at the correct time, at the right time. And as I told you, it was inevitable. Having 5 founders, all of them with slightly different skill set, in my opinion, is super useful in this sector that goes with cycles every few months. You have to pivot very quickly into identifying new problems, into solving other things. You know, we have Trump administration now, the regulation is changing. I believe we're by far faster than any other team in the world at the moment, I would say. I'll dare to say, to very quickly have innovations on all of these things. So that's how the chemistry works.
What was the problem that you saw, needed solving, and how have you addressed it with Sui?
Many. The most important, I believe, is starting from the developers. Do you know how many developers exist for even Solidity or Move, all of the other languages?
Tell me.
It might be a few thousand, right? JavaScript, and all of the other languages have millions of developers. So obviously we did something wrong, right? We haven't created languages that it was easy for people to learn, and at the same time, they were not built the original languages for security. They had compression in mind. For example, on Ethereum, you can have less transactions per second, but everything is a number. It's not even an object. So we try to do everything to minimize the packet size to ensure that the consensus algorithm works pretty much at steroids to ensure that you can at least have 15, 20 transactions per second. And then when Sui came, we created a new language. By Libra, we created the Move language, and then we switched into the Sui Move language, which is object-based. Like a Java or a Rust developer is coming into the to the creation of a new startup, a new idea, especially on DeFi. That's why you will see Sui being very, very successful on DeFi and institutions, but also gaming, because even on games they work with objects. So we solved this problem for the developer, and then we added all of the extra elements for security, because Move is a more secure language, by design, compared to Solidity. And Solidity was the most successful smart contract platform back then. And then you need, of course, the consensus expert to ensure that you can have hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. So we had one co-founder. You needed someone who knows how to do like cool cryptography where everybody can create an account just with a social login or other things. You had someone who created the language. It's like you have a Vitalik in the company, right? So in my opinion, these elements together solved the problem of being a more friendly blockchain for the average user. And this is where we win. You see DeFi and you see all of these people also like playing games. It was rare, right? When we started 2 years ago, it was a bit more difficult to find people who are not only trading on the blockchain. And we switched into this mode just by our experience from the big companies. That was the actual source, innovation and experience.
Let me ask you, because I'm curious the path to get there and what you guys feel the building blocks are. So what I see, and just please correct me where I'm wrong, because I'm looking in from an outsider. Your priorities are building a blockchain which is scalable, fast, secure, building something that's very developer friendly and really prioritizing developer adoption, right? But then additionally, what I see you doing is trying to, and I've spoken with Evan about this in the past, rebuilding components of the internet, on top. So that when I think about it, that's a full stack, right? I mean,
100%.
Because you're saying, okay, well, we've built this blockchain, so we have the utility. That's just that's what it means to be an L1. It has to work, it has to do what a blockchain is meant to do. We've got some differentiating components of that in terms of speed and scalability. Another differentiating component is the Move programming language. Now with that, we're going to go target developers. And now that means also choosing which kind of developers to target. And additionally, we are going to kind of kick off these projects where we rebuild components of the internet on top of this blockchain. Tell me how I did there, first of all. And now tell me how do you prioritize that? And that's a very big space. How do you choose what to do and prioritize within that?
It's not very big, I would say. So typically for a computer, we need the following components, right? You need a very fast CPU. Ideally, if you can have multiple cores in the CPU, so it's parallelized. And this is Sui. By the time we created the computer, like Sui itself, then we had to build other things on top of it. You need a very secure language because you're referring to people who are going to trust their assets into this platform, right? So you're building a VM now, you're creating a virtual machine, you're creating an operating system. This operating system requires a language. You can go and adapt an existing language, but some languages like Rust, for example, Solana has Rust. Rust was built for the regular Web 2 interfaces. It was not a script language that you can use for smart contracts. So we had to change the Rust, but it's a safe language at the same time. So we tried to get some inspiration for how Rust is implemented, and then we adapted everything into creating the Move language, and then the object Move language, which is the Sui language. Why objects? Because the objects brought a new way of thinking. I have a market, and this creates a supermarket, which is a composable element of this. And then you can have an asset, and you have a super asset over a previous one. So technically, we allowed people to create on top of the others. Because you need this element as well, right? You have developers who are building platform A, you are building a printing company, and there is another company who is creating inks for this printing company. And you want all of these people to actually work together. Previously, it was an isolated environment. But if you see how the operating systems work, then you have some calculator, and there is another company who's building the super calculator. But I also accept Photoshop images to get pictures, and then automatically you do the calculation just by your camera. So we said, okay, we're coming from very big companies. We have the CPU, which is Sui. What are we missing? We're missing something which is like the hard disk, storage. Then let's build Walrus. You need the hard disk, right? But the blockchains are typically very expensive, or they cannot store big blobs, big elements, because it will be very slow. So we created Walrus, which is the storage layer. We have the CPU, We have Walrus, which is the storage layer. We have the language, which is the move language. And then we say, what is the most common like action on the blockchain? It's typically you need an Excel sheet. Literally, you need a NASDAQ. You need something that people can go and implement on top of these DeFi platforms and all of this stuff. And we created Dbook. And then we say, look, Dbook is a platform where people can trade assets, they can create frameworks for exchanging of value and all of this stuff. And then what do you need? You also need identity. And then we said, okay, people need to have some identity. And then we split it identity between two elements. One is the buy a domain, like the Sui and S, and the other is my identity as Kostas. I want to have an account. And then we created zero knowledge proofs on top of the other like login systems that people were familiar with. And now you will see there is also another thing coming, which is the protection of how the messages are transferred in the network. And we had Sion. Sion, we hired a team like one of the best researchers in the world in Switzerland, in Zurich. And this team is working on changing literally the BGP protocol, the protocol that does packet propagation between the nodes of the internet. And as you can imagine, the components are typically 5, 6. It's not like unlimited components. But you have to create a machine like Apple. You need all of them to work like a Switch watch. And this is the reason that you have specialists on programming languages, specialists on security and consensus, specialists on creating virtual machines and operating systems, specialists on cryptography, specialists on storage, specialists on anything you can imagine, but under this cycle of 7, 8 elements that I mentioned before. After that, you have a full operating system in Web3 now. That's the whole idea. It's not 100 elements, right? It's 7, 8, like you have your computer, go and deassemble everything from your computer. Maybe you will find a graphics card and you will say, can Sui have AI on chain? Yes, because after a while, when you have a fast computer, a fast VM, now AI is possible on our regular computers, regular laptops. Sui is preparing itself to be the platform for also machine learning and AI on chain. Because we sold the storage, people have to upload all of their big models into the chain that was impossible before. We have good authentication. Now, Ledger is one of them, but you can use Ledger in a multi-sig authentication. No, not many blockchains do have native multi-sig. I can use a Ledger and a password in Sui. And you will see, remember me, even myself, people are going to use Ledger on almost, especially if they're having a startup and they need to maintain treasury. Before they go to the custodians, they will try to do experiments and eventually some of the wallets will be based on Ledger plus something else. I cannot see something different at the moment. So we're building the foundation even for authentication. That's a component. It's not 100, right? Think, Ian, I mean, what is the rest 20 elements? There are not so many.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. Look, I studied computer science, and I'm thinking back to my operating system class as you're saying it, right? So so Sui is the world computer. And you've got that operating system. With Walrus, you've got the storage component.
Yes.
Then you're adding components as you need them, whether it's marketplace or authentication, et cetera. But like any operating system, that'll continue to grow. To your point, like could you
100%.
Could you or a third party add another component into this system that a developer may or may not use? Of course, like that's the extensibility is a key in an environment like this. So and you alluded to ledger use there too. So tell me, because I know that especially when it comes to gaming, you guys have tried to do some work that helps game developers easily onboard users. As an example, like what are the things that you're seeing people do out there, and how do you think Ledger fits into the overall picture for Sui?
Of course. So as you know, there are many like malware out there, especially now with AI. People can build a lot like easier programs that can try to cheat, maybe either with social engineering or other things. In my opinion, the thing that Ledger is compatible with Sui and very quickly you can build something on top of it, it's super useful. There was a reason that Sui was built with cryptographic agility from the very beginning. Why cryptographic agility? Because on authentication, we have many different like types of people interacting with the web today, but at the same time, we have very different styles regarding the obsessity with security. I will give you an example. The average user on Instagram cannot remember a password. That's the reality. let's face it, right? 99% they're using the same passwords or predictable passwords. So for these people, we do have a few options, right? One of the options was, let's use zero knowledge proofs and let these people stay with the login with Google, login with Facebook, along probably with a second factor authentication, which might be a ledger or something else. And then at least now it's easy to have an account on board like users very quickly. Gaming companies who previously had only login with Google or Facebook or Apple, then you have an account automatically. Now they also have a blockchain account with us. And we're using cryptography that is no dependency on any custodian. It's self-custody again. Not even Google can match your ID with the actual address. So we say one way to authenticate in Sui is using this ZK login. It's called, that is using Google, Facebook, and Apple, and all of the other, Microsoft now, everybody who is supporting this, like OAuth, as it's called, like the protocol, to create an account. These users are typically holding like small assets, small values on chain. They can play games. They can probably do some trading. But as you go, like as you learn, you also need to improve your security stance, right? You need to go into a set where, okay, now I need multi-sig, or I need a two-factor authentication, or I need devices now because I don't even trust myself. I don't trust my computer anymore. So what we did, we said, okay, in Sui you can sign with EDDSA. Some devices are already familiar and supporting EDDSA. Ledger is one of them, and we're having already, like with the old versions of Ledger, the EDDSA support, and now with the new versions of Ledger, full support, right? This is what we're planning to do now with Ledger Live and everything that we're doing together. We also support ECDSA, where some people, they only have their iPhone, and their iPhone has an enclave, and this enclave can help them with Face ID to create an account. We support Google, and we have a native multi-sig. And what's the biggest benefit that doesn't exist in other blockchain? We are not penalizing the users because they are using something which is a bit more exotic or safer than what they had before. Imagine if you are using a multi-sig or you are using a single sig, you are not charged more. It's as if we go to Google, and if you are using a long password, we have to charge you more for Gmail access. It doesn't make sense, right? Why do you want to penalize user for authentication? So we said, let's get rid of the cost. Let's allow people to authenticate with the thing that they feel comfortable with. We need to have the algorithms that all of the hardware companies are supporting, Ledger in particular, which is pretty much, I mean, this is what I have as well. I have it here next to me.
Thank you.
And yeah, and now everybody, including your company, can very quickly go and build a new wallet on Sui. And someone else who is just focusing on gaming, they can start with, okay, you can do ZK login after you have 10,000 or more like USDC or Sui in your wallet. Then we know how to transfer your assets into a Trezor or Ledger wallet, and then there you have all of the assets in a hardware. And what's happening now? People like you are saying, okay, there are gamers. These gamers are using very basic signature schemes, but I can offer them better security. Down the road, these people from 16-year-old will become 19 and 20-year-old, and they are going to require better security, right? So here we are. Ledger is supporting fully the Sui ecosystem, and then it's not only the Sui token itself, it's all of the other tokens. It's pretty much anything that is built on top of Sui, like the ERC20 on Ethereum. Now we're going to gradually support them on Ledger as well. You can do, in a few months, you can do staking. You can do all of the other things to make money also from your wallet. Look, our wallet is the new version of what we used to have with e-banking in the past. That's the reality. Some people will go as obsessed with security with devices. Some other people will start gradually with login with Google, and then they will move on to devices. This is my personal view on how this will evolve.
Yeah, I think the challenge that we're all going to have, and I think that in some cases, we already see this with the self-custody wallet that you have. I think because as you say, like the intention for that wallet is that people use it. It's a great onboarder. We have to have easy ways for people to just come in and join us. The barrier to entry can't be super high. Completely agree. And then as they get more value, and by the way, this is how people become Ledger customers. People become Ledger customers. They often start with an exchange. They get a little bit of value. They have a little bit of education. They get more value, more education. they start to care about security and self-custody. Hopefully they don't find that out the hard way. That's what you can imagine, we're the lightning rod for the horror stories of the way people discover that they need better security is the hard way. But oftentimes, and the preferred path, of course, is that as people get more knowledge, then they naturally want more security, and they migrate to Ledger. I think the challenge that we have as a community and as an industry is getting people to do that before they find out before they learn it the hard way.
Of course.
Because we know, as you said, you gave your personal experience from the beginning. It's very possible for someone to just own your OS. If that happens, you're toast. And this is why you do need dedicated hardware such as Ledger, and why it's great that we will have Sui support for inside of Ledger Live, so that people can use Ledger as a second factor, which, by the way, is a great use of Ledger. My Ledger is my second factor on my Exchange account, my Google account, my login.gov account in the US, et cetera, et cetera. My X account, Ledger is a second factor, and that I feel like is really a privilege, right? To be able to have, not even, not just my Face ID or whatever biometrics. Biometrics are interesting, but they are not passwords. Passwords are secrets which can be rotated. Biometrics are neither secrets nor can they be rotated. So I can go beyond biometrics, I can go beyond Google Authenticator, and I can have Ledger as 2FA, but I can also have Ledger as the storage for my private key, where my Sui is sent. So I appreciate that together we're offering that full spectrum, and I think it's really our goal collectively to make sure that people know, hey, you are above that threshold. And by the way, that threshold might be different for that person than that person. For that person, the threshold might be $1,000 of value. For that person, it might be $10,000 in value. That's okay. It's not for me to make that judgment. But if you've got an amount of money that you would cry if you lost, or an amount of value you would cry if you lost, then you better upgrade that security. So
100%. And I would also add here that a lot of people, I see it even with my colleagues and some friends. Dubai is one of the most active communities on crypto, right? Many people that I meet in bars, they do have a ledger in their pocket. I see them like, okay, let me send you some Sui, or let me show you what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's very common, right, lately. And I also realize that they're having a couple of accounts. There is the warm and the hot account where they are sending very quick transactions, small amounts. And then when you have your actual balance where you're keeping your deposits there, they're using a ledger device. This is going to happen. And I also see situations where someone is using a multi-sig where, okay, I can have login with Google and my password, 2 out of 2. But if I lose them, I fall back to Ledger.
Yeah.
So Ledger, I will see many folks actually having Ledger as being the final, the last resort. If something happens, at least I have my device and I can go there and get my money back.
Yeah, exactly. And really to do that, I mean, the beauty is that you get, in many ways, the same thing that you have in your pocket today with your TradFi wallet, right?
Yeah.
But you have it with real self-custody and permissionless money and permissionless value. I mean, I think we kind of take it for granted now, but I think it is worth
it's
mentioning.
Safer, eh?
It's the same. It gets us to my next question as well, because I think people don't think about it because they know how to use the interface, right? If you think about your wallet, you've got a little bit of cash, that's permissionless money, that's self-custody. You've got an ATM card with a low limit, you have a credit card with a higher limit. In my case, I've got some, Paris Metro tickets in my pocket, that's self-custody of some legal tender value. But in a way, the bank is kind of my fallback, the way that you were saying that Ledger can be the fallback. But what I wanted to ask you, I have two final questions for you, and they're both kind of big ones. So feel free to go as far into it as you would like. I'm really curious what you think the applications that we'll see on Sui this year. What are you hoping for this year? And I'm also curious, I'm going to ask you both questions at once, and then you can put them together if you'd like. How are you bringing developers on? What are you doing to really activate that developer community? And if developers are watching, how do they get involved?
That's a great question, and it's timely because today we had a training session in Dubai's Sui Hub, where I cannot recall, it was 15 people traveling across the world to be trained on Sui Move. We had so many people from Brazil, we had people from the US, from the UK, India, Australia. They all came here representing their companies. Pretty much they send us like the head of engineering department to learn Sui Move. So we're doing all of these initiatives. And today we also had the course about authentication, like all of the signature schemes we're supporting, and how, if you're having a startup and you have a treasury, what do you need to do to ensure that there is like security? Because if you are advertising, we're pretty much the same ethos. Move was created to have a better security, and that's why you see we like people like you, that you're also bringing the extra security element, because key management is super important, right? Move is one part of the security of the smart contract. The other is how your key is handled in your environment now. Now, because of this ethos, I have a feeling that many institutions are coming more often into Sui, and you will see it. Like we have situations like Grayscale, Franklin Templeton, Vanek, Ant Financial, the Greek stock market, the whole stock market is coming into Sui. And this means that I don't know if it's because of Trump administration opening the doors, and now everybody's trying to catch the train. But I feel that because Sui was created by a team that knows how to validate and maintain billions of users, it's the natural place to explore first. It's very difficult for a country to go to a known founder and just put all of their assets on the blockchain. Very difficult. I'm talking to many officials. It's not very easy, right? But Sui has this element that it's very rare to find it. All of these people already are very successful on what they did. They are super innovative. And we believe they can secure our assets better than the rest. So that's one way to attract developers. We are the chain of both speed and security, which is surprising. Do you know how many white papers do we have at Sui? 80. 80 white papers. And I will post on Twitter one of these days all of the list of, some of them already accepted in some of the biggest conferences or journals in the world. Some of them are technical reports, but all of them are white papers. Like you will see reviewed papers from some of the biggest researchers in the world. And then I believe we're getting this element, like the stamp that Sui is secure. Actually, it was never down. We had a very, very small incident where there was a very, very slow transaction rate, but we were never down. Give me another blockchain that was never down, right? So security is the thing that automatically and naturally attracts institutions, banks, governments, and I believe all of the DeFi, the fact that we're one of the top blockchains on DeFi, which is a new blockchain, as a new blockchain being on DeFi very high, it's very rare, right? And the TVL that is growing pretty much at the top 10 of all blockchains, it's a momentum that I believe by itself it's working to attract the developers. The other thing that is happening is we created an automated AI vulnerability tool. It's called Bug Radar. If you are writing a code, like whatever smart contract, it will check a soft audit before you go to the auditor. If you are doing some silly mistakes, or if you are having something as a pattern that we have identified from the past, and we're giving it for free to the community. And this plays a huge role. AI, people are now writing most of their code with some AI-aided proposals and hints, right? Sui, because it's newer, it's built in a way that is more carefully designed to be compatible with all of these tools. We have Sui GPT that is doing the compilation of your smart contract, and then you are attaching Baghdad on top of it, and then you can verify the contract's validity. Imagine if we give this to Binance and Bybit, and before they have a new token being listed, they are always checking, okay, let's have a final soft audit. I agree you had your auditor, but let's also ask AI if it's secure. Sui is compatible with these schemes now, which is amazing. And there is another thing that is happening, which is, look, by the time you're creating an app, try to onboard users with the easy login systems, and you will see very quickly how the QA will reward you. People are getting onboarded into your app by far faster than any other chain, which means that you can test in real life with real users before you are able to do it on Solana, on Ethereum, on anything else at the moment. So in my opinion, we created pretty much in an environment where naturally and automatically the developers are coming and exploring Sui as their first two options, I believe. And this is unique, right? We're writing the move book. We're having you know that even in Dubai, in UAE, we're teaching Sui and blockchain in one of the biggest universities in the Gulf in general, in all of the GCC. Some universities, even in the UK, in Greece, are now teaching Sui. And we said, look, if we don't start from the young generation for education, there is no way blockchain will be the next thing. So you will realize that hackathons and education is part of our blood. We are fighting for this, and we're having companies like Bybit and Cointelegraph supporting some of our initiatives here, just because we're also educators. I was a professor. One of my co-founders was a professor. Many people in our company, we have, 50, 60 PhD holders in the company. We know how to offer this to the community, and I think it's appreciated.
So what's being built, and what would you like to see built this year?
Being built, I believe Walrus will make a huge change because technically it's like the hard disk of Sui, any other blockchain, but because it uses Sui for coordination, I believe it will start a lot faster on Sui, and we will see probably a few Ethereum projects coming also through Walrus and authentication on Sui. So what you are building, it's pretty much authentication for Walrus as well. You are talking about Sui, but Walrus, because it's coming, and I can see how someone can build a DocuSign on Sui, how someone can build a Netflix on Sui, how you can build a Google Docs on Sui, how you can have web pages on Walrus and Sui. You know that Walrus is going to offer also this binary transparency that we all need. You are opening your web page and you know exactly what JavaScript is running. And now even the wallet application that is talking to Ledger Live, you will know that this is the real JavaScript that we were expecting to run. It's not something else, right? You also have clear signing and all of this stuff that I personally want as a cryptographer and security like professor. But I will personally expect to see many institutions either having treasuries on Sui or building some of large-scale RWAs on top of Sui. It's coming. I see it. I'm working personally on a lot of zero-knowledge proof protocols. Like you will see some news very recently about the Greek stock market is going to use Sui's zero-knowledge proofs for their assets.
Wow.
Imagine, this is huge, right? And by having all of these tools, giving them for free to the community, it's not like a proprietary like dependency on some particular vendor. It's native. You can go and build auction system, voting system, all of these DAO systems, secure and more private asset swapping and all of this stuff. And I have a feeling that these will give some extra like tools on top of Sui. The other thing that I see being used a lot more is Sui is, I don't know if there are 2 or 3 blockchains in total, but I believe we have one of the fastest in the world, a randomness beacon native to Sui. Imagine how many companies can build from matchmaking for gaming. You know that even in chess, it's not a super fair game. Whoever plays white first, they have an advantage compared to the black, right? So you need the randomness in many gaming operations. So I will expect that the random beacon of Sui will be used more and more into Sui. And I'm planning to see, in the gambling industry, of course, but also in the sports industry, we might see like use of the randomness beacon of Sui. We might also see it for anything governmental because, randomness is also inside the government. Some people are giving social housing. There are situations where you give away money to your citizens or free holiday tickets and all of this stuff. So Sui will be, I believe, the placement of higher adoption from institutions. This is what I'm expecting to see. And you start with the primitives. Primitives, I go and train the public sector employee in a particular government. That's how you can create adoption of the system, right? And then the team of Move is doing a great work to create more features in the Move language for even more security there, but also AI aiding tools. People are going to draw what they want to design on Sui. And I've seen a few POCs. I've also seen Lightning Network on Sui. So, there is Lightning Network on Bitcoin, but hey, we have zero knowledge proofs. Hey, we do have all of the signature schemes that you can support on any other channel. what if Sui can be used for creating super fast? Imagine you can even have a slot machine on Sui with zero latency, zero. And to tell you the truth, I want to explore how I can even use Ledger here for this kind of stuff. We even had a streaming platform on Sui. So Sui and Walrus, I believe this combination, because it's the first time we see an L1 being accompanied with a storage layer, some of the things that me and you cannot think today will happen. As I told you, DocuSign is one of the things. Right. You need both of them.
I mean, every time I use DocuSign and I sign something, I say, wait, this
it's a handwritten signature that you can send.
It's not a signature.
It doesn't make sense.
No. That's amazing. Well, before I let you go take your flight, we should restate, which Mo said in the intro, what it is that Ledger and Sui are doing together. So we're really, our goal is to pull you all the way through. So instead of send and receive with a third-party wallet, that inside of Ledger Live, we have send and receive, you can buy, you can swap, you can ultimately stake, you have clear signing, and you have Ledger Enterprise support as well for institutions that want to use Ledger Enterprise to protect their value. I want to restate for the audience that's what we're, for Ledger, we want to make sure that you can do absolutely everything you want to do with your digital private property without compromising on security and self-custody. And for all the reasons that you've talked about in the interview, Sui is flying. You guys are developing super quickly. That's why I keep asking about what developers, what applications. I want to see it. I'm excited to see Walrus come to life. Congrats, man. Congrats on everything you're doing. Say hello to Evan from me. Say hi to everybody on the team, and it's great to work with you guys. We appreciate working with you.
Likewise, and expect from me, personally, to write a review about this integration, because I will be your first customer.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. All right, thanks.
Thank
really
you so much.
Appreciate it. We'll see you guys soon. It's great.
See you soon.
Great being in partnership with you.